Hello and welcome to this tier list of porn categories and tags, which everyone really wanted me to make, especially Wouter. Bear in mind that this tier list is a completely objective and factual tier list concerning the perspectives of heterosexual white cis males, and that no mere opinion of mine is present in this video. Now to explain the tier list. The S tier is reserved for those categories and tags whose presence always makes something better, such as amateur. Then in C tier are those tags whose presence does not matter at all to the overall enjoyment, the true neutral if you wish, for which feet is a prime example. And in F tier are those categories which are absolutely boner killing, such as lolly. First of all, barely 18. This category was a lot more fun when you yourself were also a teenager. With age it also gets a bit too close to the LDZ, which stands for the lolly danger zone. However, factoring in the fertility factor and the tightness of the skin, this category will on balance settle into C tier. On the other side of the spectrum, we've got MILF, of which the sad reality is that they are often already past their physical prime. E tier. Granny, of course, is much worse. The wrinkliness of the skin, the fact that they are probably indeed someone's grandmother, makes this clear F tier material. Then we have Monster Girl. There's a lot to like, there's also a lot to dislike, and a lot to be indifferent about. It depends on the monster, really. However, since we are talking about monsters, it is safe to assume that it has some female domination in there, which at least makes it interesting. And I'm also going to count Succubi among the Monster Girls, which without a doubt bumps Monster Girl up to B tier. Yandere is basically a succubus who is human, which is slightly less ideal, so that'll be B tier but lower. Then we've got Redhead, which for some inexplicable reason is a category everyone likes. It's different, it adds color and personality, it's definitely A tier. Rough sex is of course extremely passionate, just two people giving into raw lust. Sometimes there's domination involved, this is definitely S tier. Then again, BDSM often goes too far, sadly. Everyone likes a bit of fun, a bit of a power dynamic with handcuffs and such. But once people start bruising and screaming in pain, the fun is pretty much over. I'll put it in low D tier, and that is me being generous. Cock and ball torture goes even further. It is simply all-round pain, and therefore has no place to go but F tier. Now, you may have noticed the concerning fact that I've split incest into incest sibling and incest parental, because I do believe that they deserve severely different ratings. Incest parental is of course disgusting. There's not only the same age difference as with MILF, but the dynamic between the two parties is of one who has a duty of care for the other, which is normally wholesome, but when put in the sexual context, disgustingly perverse, and therefore deserves to be F tier. Incest sibling, on the other hand, is simply two people of the same age group who have a similar relational dynamic to any two people of the same age group, but whose sexual union is a taboo, which only adds to the hotness. It is therefore B tier. Public is a bit of a hit or miss, but usually adds a nice element of danger, realism, and again taboo, making it A tier. Speaking of realism, when two people are enjoying themselves, they can't help playing it up for the camera. Therefore, nothing is more real, more raw than unapologetic indifference. Happiness is not seductive. Seriousness is seductive. Emotionless sex is therefore very high S tier. Fight me. Mind control is a special and versatile tag that essentially has indifference already within it, though it is less good because it wouldn't be real, genuine indifference. However, some real fun can be had with it by creating very differently nuanced scenarios, making it indeed S tier. Big boobs, of course, clearly has an evolutionary background to back up its hotness. It provides a key stimulus. It would be S tier if not for the fact that there does come a point when the boobs are so big they become visible from space, which does mean that there is a line which should not be crossed. It can therefore only be high A tier. Big ass is of course also an amazing category. The debate between boobs and ass is an ancient one. However, as I have written in an old essay, big boobs has to be superior, since the hottest part of the body is often someone's face. Due to proximity, boobs complement the face in a way which an ass never can. I've written this down. I've sort of forgotten the script as I'm reading it. Which makes big ass A tier, but below big boobs. Speaking of hotness, of facial expressions, ahegao is of course not realistic, but does provide a nice key stimulus, especially when drawn well and performed with conviction. It is akin to the mind break tag, which of course is excellent as well. It is easy to get wrong and overdo it, so it can't be S tier, but it is very nice when done well. A tier. Blowjob is an interesting and surprisingly controversial category. I used to believe that blowjob was a terrible category, since there is just so much focus on the dick, and no focus on any female genitalia. However, I eventually recognized that a blowjob gives perfect sight of someone's face when it is being absolutely defiled. Have I written this? When you think about it, connecting genitals is less intimate than taking someone's genitals into your mouth. That being said though, there's still quite a lot of dick in the shot, so it can only go as high as top B tier. Double penetration also has too much dick. It has indeed double the dick. There is a redeeming quality there of domination, as is the case with orgies and gangbangs, but it is not redeeming enough, especially when you consider it almost always includes anal. Anal ought to have a worse reputation than it currently has. It is difficult to imagine people really enjoying being on the receiving end, but also on the giving end it is just too unsanitary to really enjoy. E tier. Pegging, therefore, does not fare much better, also E tier. Speaking of insanitary, scat obviously comes crashing into bottom F tier. Urination can be top F tier, sure, since at least it is a whole lot cleaner by comparison. Which brings us to squirting. Squirting does not really add much, and is often even a negative factor because it is often exaggerated and is rumored to even be partially urination, making it therefore low D tier. She-male is again too much unnecessary dick. There is no need to combine the male and female roles into one individual for the purposes of porn. Just let it be two people, if for nothing else, just to be less confusing. E tier. In contrast, solo masturbation is usually a big positive. Because there is no partner to take into account whose needs also need to be met, it has a high potential for realism and intimacy with the camera. The only major downside is that it is often quite boring. Low A tier. Cream pie is of course universally loved for good reason. This makes sense from an evolutionary perspective. The height of climax takes place without interrupting the passion. S tier. I gave furry a bad name in my last cultured video, but this was somewhat unwarranted. On its own it is C tier, since whether some fur is present or not is largely irrelevant. However, furry can be somewhat of an uncomfortable stepping stone into bestiality, which is F tier. So furry has to be D tier. Funny, comedy has its time and place, you know, but it does really detract from the experience you're going for when looking for porn. However, I will now share a very tasteful anecdote. I once watched a porn video, which was not categorized as funny, but became really funny, which really threw me for a loop. It started like this. Like a girl was just coming out to the bathroom in a towel. The guy was already in the room with a camera. The girl asks, "Oh, you're filming, no one's going to see this, right?" To which the guy responds, no one's going to see this, just you and me and our kids and our grandkids. To which the girl becomes really confused, but does still go along with it, saying, well, sure, but at least we should wait until they're old, like so old that they can't even remember that it's us in the video. To which the guy responds with, oh, but then we'll be dead, so we can't show the video anymore. To which the girl responds with, we'll time capsule this video. Like put it in the ground for them to dig up. To which the guy responds with, well, you know, maybe science has advanced to the point in which we'll be able to upload our minds. At which point there is the hardest cut ever made in video to just a generic blowjob scene. Because apparently even the actors could no longer find a way to dig themselves out of this hole to get the plot back on track. That was incredibly funny. However, it was a bit hard to get back into the mood after that, so yeah, even really funny videos still have to be D tier in a porn context. And moving on. Cuckold is just a bit depressing and disappointing really, and there's no evolutionary reason to back it up. There is a dominant submission aspect to it, which is somewhat of a redeeming quality, D tier. Impregnation, not too dissimilar to cream pie, just a bit more graphic, A tier. Lesbian. Contrary to popular belief, this is not a great category since there is no opportunity whatsoever to self-insert. For the cis white male, D tier. Audio or ASMR. This is an incredibly underrated category with a lot of potential. You can potentially be taken along for a great immersive story, S tier. Then we have Tomboy. This is S tier because nobody wants a conformist stuck-up Barbie doll, and Tomboy is basically the opposite of that. If you want a better explanation of tomboy superiority and a demonstration of the power of audio porn, I suggest looking up Do That Lewd Tomboy Copy Pasta in the hub. This concludes this regrettable monologue. If there are categories which I have missed which you would like me to review, let me know in the comments below for a potential part 2.